Hey guys, and welcome back to Omnifactory. On to episode number 21 now. Off camera, I've done a little bit of work here and there. Done a bit of work in terms of getting some resources ready, some other little bits as well. As well as that, I would like to give a shout out to somebody in the comments, Daniel Farland. I hope that's how it's pronounced. Essentially, they've given us some tips about how to kind of, well, mainly to stop the main issue that I had, which was when the kind of machinery was turning off and on. It was causing my lag. There is a way that you can do it in the settings, mod options, Minecraft Forge, and it is this one here. So forced threaded chunk rendering. Essentially, it allows the machinery to turn on and off. It's really worked, as you can see, very, very smooth. It also gave us another tip, which I'll get into that room a little later. Bit of a sneak peek there. If we have a look down here, we've got some numismatic dynamo set up with the lapidary calibration and some upgrades in there. They produce, when they're running at full tilt, about, I think it's 12,500 RF each, and we're getting our diamonds through shulkers. So yeah, we've got a couple of bits down there which I do want to show as well. In terms of power, as you can see, we are still using a lot. So the way I've got this set up is the main source of power is through the diamonds. Then we have our, I still think this looks amazing in my opinion. Then we've got our magmatic dynamo set up down here to turn on 3090, and the same with our diesel generators down here. They're all set 3090. Main one right there though, that's set again 3090 because I got a little bit of bugs when I was changing them around. They kind of turn off, turn on, but if I'm honest, I don't really need that one on there. They can just consistently run. It's a case that, yeah, even what's happening here actually, they've actually held off, so that's why we've got a net loss in power. We've realistically not producing anything. Yeah, we're not producing any power at all at the moment. So 82,000 RF just casually is what our base is using. If we jump over here, this is part of the work that I have got into. So finally reorganized our kind of setup here. This is something that I will be doing for today's episode as well as this and this. We have officially got IV power up and running, and yeah, some circuitry. I'll run through that in a short time. Reorganize this, so we're now using this purely for blast furnaces, and we've got the HSSG, so that's high strength steel grade G, which runs at 5400 Kelvin. Again, this has been run on IV power, which these things are ridiculous. So each one of these stores 100 million EU. There's 16 of them. So that's 1.6 billion stored EU on both sides. Which EU is for RF. RF is for, yeah, 1 EU is 4 RF, so it's 6.4 billion RF stored in each of those things, which I find a little bit ridiculous. Yeah, all stored up through IV. A few different things that I'm going to be working on through today's episode. One thing that I do want to do as part of kind of my base cleanup, I got rid of the mass storage of PVC and polyethylene sheets. and I'll show you that in a moment as well. But what I want to do is just put that there. So that's all of the polyethylene sheets. They're going to go into the fluid extractor and go into the system, which is fine. So they'll all win the way in. Have a look over here. So I have done some fluid management here and there. So we've upgraded a few cells to 64Ks. We've actually downgraded some cells to 1Ks, and I'll explain that. So if we have a look at our kind of fluid terminal, we are now storing water. We've maxed out on nitrogen. I want to max out on lava. It shouldn't take too long. Oxygen again, another one that we've got 64K. Decided to go 64K on biodiesel. We're producing a fair amount of that now as well. What else did I kind of run through? So these right here, these are all maxed out 1K cells. So sulfuric acid, indium concentrate, and nitrogen dioxide are all being stored in 1K. And I've also gotten through I decided to run through all of our sulfuric, heavy fuel, light fuel, that type of thing, and I changed it as much as possible basically into naphtha. So naphtha, always spell this wrong, naphtha, yeah, I always get the T and the H wrong way around. Anyway, naphtha itself, the main use of this, in my opinion, is this one here for the epoxy resin, which is used with epichlorohydrin or epichlorohydrin, yeah, and nitrogen dioxide, which you've seen I'm already storing. The epoxy resin is used in a few different things, mainly used in upgrading through to things like the better circuit boards, which is also a reason that I do hold things like the better circuits in here. So if we have a look at the recipes in here, what I've got set up in this IV assembler is we have the end game on tier 1 circuits, tier 2 circuits, tier 3 circuits. They're not exactly the end game recipes, but they will be the end game circuits. They're the final stage of each circuit of those. We have, I think this is the second to last one of the tier 4 circuits, the second tier 5 circuit, and the first tier 6 circuit, as well as our IV power, which I do want to show something on that as well, because there's a bit of kind of auto crafting nonsense going on with those guys. This is our setup. So this is mainly for a lot of the stuff that's going to be in here is basically fluid based. So the way that I've got our sheets working is we have a draw controller with a storage bus attached, as you'd expect. Each one of these is going to store 2,000 of each sheet. Previously I was kind of storing a lot more, and that shows by how much polyethylene I actually had, because I had about 70,000 sheets of polyethylene. Realistically, that's just not needed. If I ever do need more, I can upgrade it, but the way these guys are working is I'm getting the fluids to all store in the system. They're going into there, and these are being conduited straight around into that. So they'll buffer themselves, That's the kind of idea that I've got with this room itself, or at least with the fluids. A lot of the stuff I'm going to get buffering themselves. Things like sulfuric acid's another one. We've got that buffering in here. This, I finally got the pulsating and vibrant crystals automated. Just a few filters here and there, so whitelisting on that. The other one in here is the raw carbon fibers. So if we have a look at these guys, so raw carbon fibers, 1 carbon dust for 1 millibucket of palladium gives you an 85% chance of 2 raw carbon fibers, which this is used again in the kind of next stages of the circuit, so that gets you through to those. again, I'll go into a little bit more on those recipes later. The way I've got the recipe itself set up is, as you can potentially see there, so I've got 1 palladium ingot with 144 carbon dust. Obviously 1 ingot is worth 144 millibuckets to produce 192 raw carbon fibers, because that's the most that you can have on the 3 outputs, at least through normal auto crafting, that is. So that's that recipe. In terms of these here, so yeah, those are for kind of the, again, just a simple filter. This one's literally just for glowstone, but that one's just straight down for these guys. So the engraved Labotron crystal chips, the way that these guys are used, so let's have a quick look on this side. They're used in the IV power, as you can see, as well as these kind of other little bits here, power ICs, glowstone dope. I don't have that automated, but it's not hard at all. So it's 8 glowstone, stack of silicone, and 8 buckets of argon. So essentially what I do is I get a stack of glowstone, 8 stack of silicone, and I then put the argon into the tank, make 8 at a time. It's, yeah, mass produce those. Over here, these are kind of the fluid works. So these this is where I've got for the setup of the circuit. So the way these work, I just get the basics put into there. So we've consistently got sulfuric acid in here using the fluid interfaces at the back. So as you can see there, that's storing sulfuric acid. It's not storing the indium concentrate. That's just because we've filled up our buffer on that side. And that's something that we will be using today as well. This guy here, storing epichlorohydrin. This one is the naphtha, which is the kind of buffer on the epoxy resin. That's the nitrogen dioxide. That's where we're producing nitrogen dioxide, storing all of the oxygen and excess in there, with nitrogen there, glycerol, and this guy is the buffer, so hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid. I can go across on that one. Yep, there we go. Hydrochloric acid is being used to make, it's not that one that we're using, this here. So this is how we get the epichlorohydrin, hydrochloric acid and glycerol, which we're getting from our production of biodiesel. So we've got a ton of that as well. Gets a bucket of when I can talk epichlorohydrin. Hydrochloric acid, as you'd probably expect, really simple recipe. You can just use sulfuric acid and water if needs be, or you can just use ethylene and chlorine. There's a few different ones here and there. It's actually a byproduct of our vinyl chloride production on the other side. So I'd moved our kind of plastic production over here. So again, we use it. This will have ethanol in here, which actually brings me on to our next part. So I took the buffer out of there just because I didn't want it to fill up our actual fluid storages, because I knew that I was going to be bringing all of the kind of excess back in. So if we have a look, we actually have 3,500 buckets of PVC. So that was just stored, and I'm pretty sure I had about 2.5 times as much polyethylene. So I've got a feeling I'm going to fill up the 1K. Now that brings us quite nicely onto the 1K storages. So I decided to go for 1K storages because they're obviously smaller, as daft as that sounds. So the reason that I decided to go on this side is that for a lot of our fluids, they're kind of a case of while ever it's there, craft with it. So I decided to go for a small storage cell so that we wasn't having to keep a lot of it crafted. we could kind of keep a nice amount, because as you've seen, it stores 8,000 buckets, so I've got no qualms with it storing that amount, and it allows us to have some bits here and there. Now, the final bit that I kind of went through, I haven't really changed much elsewhere, I don't think. Oh, I changed this, so instead of having a extractor, we're now, because we've got polyethylene in our system, we're just automatically sending the polyethylene straight across to a tank. Made more sense. This right here, so we was having issues where we wasn't producing ethanol. Now, the way that I previously had it set up was we would produce our ethanol into here, or we'd produce our biomass, sorry, in here, send it straight into this, automatically send it into here. Whenever we kind of backed up on biodiesel, we would get an excess of ethanol which went straight into the system after it was put into this machinery. Now, because I've upgraded our biodiesel storage cell to 64K, we're not going to get enough of a backup straight away. We're also actually running quite low on canola seeds, but that's a different story. That won't be an issue. That's just because we're producing a lot of biodiesel. It's not the case that we're using excess. We had about 24,000 buckets of ethanol stored in our system just from excess production, which has gone into a long way of making the 94,000 buckets of biodiesel that we actually hold. So that's that side. But if we jump back here, this is our sugarcane production. So yeah, it's a fairly decent production, let's say. So yeah, we're producing a lot of sugarcane, and that's needed because we have 32 advanced breweries set up, and I have also actually started using P2P tunnels for our power. So if we jump back here, I've got a P2P tunnel set up right there. Just linked it with our with a memory card. One thing to note with the memory card itself, it doesn't work if you have anything in your offhand. It comes up with an error for some reason, but if you are having any issues, take anything out of your offhand, quite simply. Sugarcane wise, up to 189,000 sugarcane. I decided to put as much in as possible. Why not? I cleaned up this back here, so now that we're actually storing a lot of our fluids, this was a right mess. So previously we had conduiting coming out of the back into these guys, then we had a storage tank going into these guys. This guy was pumping out its ethanol into a fluid interface. We had a fluid interface down here because of conduiting. We had a trash can. Yeah, it's a lot easier right now. So the way I've got this set up is our what's this thing called? It's the distillation tower. Goes straight into the fluid interface. Now the fluid interface is consistently having a backlog of ethanol stored in it, so you can shift click buckets into this. Probably just to get an example, just so you know. So let's take a bucket. So to get rid of it, you just click it and it drops that back into the system. Now you shift click that in there when it's going through all of its stuff. It will store it in a second. It's just got to get rid of all of this first. In fact, let's help it. So whenever it's pulling other things in there, it won't do it, but as soon as it does, it'll constantly store 4 buckets, and then that'll go automatically into there. The way set up is some conduiting here. Jump out here. So the conduiting is actually Shouldn't be too hard to fix. Which one was it? It is the sodium hydroxide, which goes into there, which I have on green inserts, or is it brown inserts? Brown inserts. Extract on brown. There we go, that's working. What I meant to do was that. So I decided to have the conduiting for this pull straight from under here. That's got a extraction filter on there to make sure that it is just the ethanol that it's pulling through. Obviously, as you've seen, there are 3 or 4 different fluids coming into this. I didn't want it to mess it up. Finally, a little bit under here, so that's just a biomass. There's no other use that I have for it, so that's going straight into there. This right here, so we're constantly having 32 stacks of sugarcane stored in here, and that's being thrown around with some vibrant alloy. Pull back into here, extracted into the system, or imported into the system, whatever you want to say. So yeah, that's that side. I did a few crafts as well, so if we have a look here. So the first one I did was arsenic, which is electrolyzed from cobaltite, which I think was was it under the cobalt ore, or was it something else that I got it from? Might have been the cobalt ore, because we've processed a little bit of cobalt. Well, I say processed a little bit of cobalt, we've got a lot of cobalt. Yeah, so we've got 3,000 cobalt. Arsenic itself though, was it? I'm almost certain that was the recipe that I used. Yeah, cobaltite, which might be the small piles that you get. You get a lot of that from production anyway, so yeah, I went through a fair bit of cobalt anyway, as you can see on that side, which does bring me to one thing that I do want to get crafting now. I want to do the, for no other reason than to complete the manulin quest. So manulin ingots are smelted down from manulin dust, 4 and 1 mana dust. Really easy on that side. So we should have ardite. Perfect. You can actually craft that as well. It's a really easy recipe. I've got that on autocraft. Cobalt, as you've seen, we've got a lot of that. Also, we've got some ingots as well, so that's fine. Mana dust, a little bit expensive, but shouldn't be too bad with all of the kind of thermal stuff. That's not wanting to craft. 16, thank you. I will get this done. As I say, it's literally just for the quest. That's the only reason that I want to do it at the moment. No other reason at all, if I'm honest. Let's get that put into there. Quest-wise, so Lumium is one thing that I do want to automate. It's not going to be hard. At the moment, I've got it semi-automated. And again, for Signalum, again, I've got that semi-automated. I'll explain those as well. Late game wise, so let's start here. So we ended off kind of getting our first tier 5 circuits. We looked into this, I think. If not, that is the recipe for the final tier 3 circuit. The hard part was the fiber reinforced circuit board, which is where our epoxy resin comes into play. So just come back here. So copper foil, sulfuric acid, very basic. Fiber reinforced epoxy resin sheet. This is where kind of the rabbit hole comes in if you're starting off from the start. However, with a lot of the stuff that we already had, it was fairly easy to automate anyway. So fiber reinforced epoxy resin bar is smelted from the pulp which is made with raw carbon fibers. As I say, that was one of the things that I showed automated, and epoxy resin pulp, which can be smelted down, or sorry, pulverized down from the epoxy resin sheets, which we have over there. And that's where we get into our fluid solidifier, epoxy resin, chemical reactor, and that's the one that we're using. So a few different crafting steps to get to there, and I did go through that fairly quick, so apologies on that side if you didn't catch it. This is another one that we've got automated as well. So again, more raw carbon fibers needed with the CPU wafers, which we've already got. And then it uses 4 pieces of glowstone to actually make the nano CPU wafer. That is then used in a few different things. That's something that we are going to need fairly soon. Indium is something that I will be getting some of this episode, at least I'm hoping so. So that's that side. What else did I have auto crafted? Epoxy circuit board. Again, that's actually a simpler version of the fiber reinforced circuit board. Instead of having to go through the extra steps with the raw carbon fibers, you can just use the normal epoxy sheets. That gets you that one, if you were wondering. Then through here, so tier 2 micro miner I actually have on autocraft, or sorry, more of a semi autocraft. So I might as well make one. This one here, so tier 1. What are we missing? Oh, actually I got rid of some of the things, so we'll need to alter a recipe. The way I've got this set up is this is our semi-auto crafter at the moment, so this is also how I work through some of the previous circuits. I'm not sure if I did it in the last episode or not, I can't remember. But essentially what it does is it will put all of the crafting materials into this crate, then you take it to whatever's needed. So fairly useful. Which one will be needing it? Be this guy here. So the micro miner guidance system. That's how I've got the auto crafting thing set up as well. So if you was wondering, because you can't shift click it in, you have to do it manually. This guy here, so let me grab a tier 2 circuit. Tier 1, tier 2. Guidance system. So it's this one here. Throw that into there. There we go. Throw it back in. And in theory, I can go like this. What are we missing now? What was using that then? Take this pattern. This is a problem when you go through different systems. I bet it's the diesel generator. Forgot about that one. When you kind of upgrade for the same materials as such, so when you go through your tier circuits, it gets annoying every now and again, but diesel generator is in the same one as the stainless steel chest. Yes, it is this one. Okay, that's should be good to go now. Miner, craft. That'll craft everything through. I can actually store the excess ethanol that I took out. And yeah, these right here as well, they're not physically needed for progression. I made them just to complete the quest. So space station assemblers, not hard, just some tier 4 circuits. EV assembler as well, so we have a spare one in our crafting, in our actual AE system, sorry. The warp core is just some blocks. and yeah, some tier 4 circuitry, again some more tier 4 circuits, so a few tier 4 circuits used in it. The quest itself, so if we have a look on here, so under the space station assembler it says this isn't actually physically required for progression, so there's not going to be a great deal of advanced rocketry needed, I guess. I might still get into some because advanced rocketry itself is a really nice mod. I think it's really well built personally, so we might see what we can do on that side just to get some of it involved. Finally, on the mid game, some IV machine hulls, which is some tungsten. We've got a lot of that as well. I'll go into that in a second. Some tungsten steel. So, tungsten. We have 2,768, not tungstate, but tungsten dust. We had about 12,000 scheelite dust. And a fair amount of tungstate dust from the ore miners on the moon. I processed all that through, and I had a temporary setup here. So it's not here now, but I'll actually show you. I had a EV CEF just sat here with an electrolyzer on top. I was exporting both tungstate and scheelite dust alongside hydrogen, and then I was inputting everything back in. I made a very temporary setup, and I might get an auto crafting setup on that side eventually, but for now we've got a fair amount of that to go around. IV power storage is the Lapatronic energy crystals. Already seen pretty much everything on there except for one thing, so there is a little bit of a messing around when it comes to the actual Lapatron crystals. So this is EV power as well, and this is one of the reasons that I didn't get into a lot of EV power. When you set up these in the normal auto crafting system, because both this and this have kind of, I guess it's NBT data through the power system, it doesn't complete the craft under all circumstances when you're using the normal molecular assembler setup. So the way that I've got this set up is with this recipe here. So if we have a look over here, it's the same recipe, but it's set up in a processing pattern. Take that over here, pop that into this crafter, chuck that into here, and everything gets processed straight away. So if you are kind of struggling on getting something to work, it's often a case that you have to go into here. So you would craft a energium or energy crystal, click that there. Same for the Lapatron crystal, you craft one manually, then you put it to there, and it's normally got the right actual data that you need to actually get it set up, if you are kind of struggling on that side, that is. So that's that one. Late game wise, just went through some of the I guess circuits. So tier 4 circuits, third tier 4 circuits, sure, that wasn't hard, we just got everything ready. Which the second tier 5 circuit was then needed. Some tungsten was probably the hard part on this, tungsten and lumium, which led us to our first tier 6 circuit. Now, given the fact that I had access to this, I literally just set up, again, same as what I actually did for the tungsten. I set up a manual assembly machine, so we've actually still got a EV assembler. I just put that into here, set up a couple of manual patterns, semi-automatic patterns into here, process everything through in the space of about 10 minutes. Considering how far we'd already gotten, I already just skipped through EV with using basically throughout the playthrough so far. I've used the electrolyzer and the assembly machine. I don't think I've used anything else that's EV. Like, I've got all of these EV machine holes, but at the same time, I might not even use them. That's a little bit of a sad part, I guess. when it comes to kind of auto crafting, a lot of the stuff that you can do can be done on the lower tier crafting things. So things like your plates, there's only the odd few here and there which you need kind of the next level machinery for, which is things like Signalum double compressed plates. I think it's one of them. I think actually while I'm here we can do another quest which I've just thought of. We can actually get the tungsten carbide heavy plating done now. Tungsten carbide heavy plating. So this is another recipe. So in the compressor it uses EV power, so I guess that's one of the things, but we've got IV power, might as well complete that quest there. So yeah, this is going to be a 4-machine auto crafting through IV, so things like the compressors, anything that needs IV power will chuck into here. Things like the electrolyzer, when we get one set up, which at the moment is gated behind osmium. So there's a few different things on that side as well. But that gives us access to the tier 3 microminer. Did it open anything else in here? Not really. IV assembler isn't actually hard at all. Tungsten steel, more tungsten steel, anneal copper, tungsten, some neodymium. So yeah, really not hard at all. Once you kind of get into tungsten, you're done through EV, in my opinion. So you get tungsten and you come straight out of it, very simply. Anyway, that's kind of what we ran through quest wise. Let's get everything on here completed so we can get all of that taken off. Got a ton of the Omnicoins at the moment. As you can tell, every now and again I do click on that just to see what we're actually doing. In fact, we got all of our stuff yet? No. What we're waiting on? Pulsating crystals. I haven't actually tried this properly. This keeps jamming up for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. So I previously had it where palladium was coming into there, but what is actually happening here then? What happened to the fluid? Pulsating iron. I wonder if it... right, hold on. I wonder if it's going into here now. It is. Okay, so that's where it was being messed up. Great. Is this one actually being used for anything? Oxygen, vinyl chloride. How can I get in? Let me change that across, get rid of the thing. So that's going to have vinyl chloride in there. I need to grab that out somehow. Very temporarily, let me north extract palladium, get some carbon. That was actually the right amount, strangely enough. The one that's actually in here, I'm not too fussed about. So the palladium that's in here it's not ideal, but it's going to be a bit of a nightmare to get out because of the sulfuric acid. In fact, no, it's not. Hold on. Let me grab a bucket of sulfuric acid. Then I can come over here, get rid of that, go on to the north, extract. That'll take it into here. Perfect. Yeah, so I did the back row after I did this row. I put the extra fluid interfaces in there and I didn't realise it, so that's kind of what happened on that one, if you was wondering. Let me just grab all of that out for a second as well. Grab the palladium. Pull 39, so now they should all be clear. Perfect. Get rid of the end of the extract. Pop that back in there. Perfect. So they're all up and running. I can throw that back in there. Throw those in there. Extra carbon things doesn't hurt anything, especially seeing as it's already done that. Does this mean, should mean, everything that's waiting in here will make us a microminer in here. Beautiful. So yeah, that's pretty much how I've got the semi-automatic stuff set up on that one. Oh, we've finally got an epic one. Primitive processors. Yeah, 150. Sure, we'll take that. How many was it? 5. Primitive. 5 of those. Inventory. Right click. There we go. So yeah, how many Omnicoins are we actually on to now? Yeah, 7,500 plus kind of these. So yeah, about 8,000 Omnicoins at the moment. Not looking too bad. So let me get what we need for this episode. So I'm going to be getting the indium, as I said. So we need a chemical reactor. Got rid of all of our MV stuff, just HV for now. Got that set up on autocraft because of how many we're actually using. Then I want a processing pattern for indium. So how it will be set up is this one right here in the chemical reactor. That's the perfect recipe. So indium is for now going to be a semi-automatic thing again, but the way it's going to work is quite simple. So if we have a look at the indium concentrate, so indium, let's kind of work it back. So indium dust is chemical reacted with 4 aluminium dust for a tiny pile with 8 buckets of indium concentrate. The indium concentrate comes from purified galena ore and purified sphalerite ore plus sulfuric acid. Very simple, and you can buy both of those ores if needed. So sphalerite is 15 Omnicoins for a half stack. Galena is 10 Omnicoins for half a stack, so not expensive, although I think, if I remember right, you actually get twice as much sphalerite from crushing it down than you do galena, if I remember that one. So yeah, galena gives you 2, sphalerite gives 4 if I'm right. Yeah, so it's cheaper but it's more expensive. Work that one out. So yeah, I just chucked the stuff, the ore into here. Don't let it go through the thermal centrifuge because it's not actually needed. It's just needed to go through the ore washer, and you take it and you pop it straight back into here. Automatically pulls through. So I did in total, I think it was 4 stacks of sphalerite ore and 8 stacks of galena ore. Process it down and it's given us, well, it's filled up the 1k cell and it's given us the excess as well, so you get a decent amount from it, that's for sure. Anyway, interface is going up there with pattern. Need some conduits, item conduits, ME conduits, and fluid conduits. We need a crate. Always good to use a crate as a storage buffer. What else do we need? We will need. Ooh, did I put the? Did I put this back into here? Didn't. Thank you. There we go. Before I mess something up on this side. Okay, so let me store a couple of things over here while we're doing it. So crate can go there. In fact, let me grab that first. ME conduit up there so it's actually attached. that in there. Then have our chemical reactor in there. That's fine. We will be export busing. So come around the side. I need to jump into the side as well. Jump underneath, get this all set up as well. So item conduit can go there and there. Should have our chemical reactor ready. Thank you. We need some glass cable. We'll need a export bus for fluids. Then we'll need a bucket. Oh yeah, I forgot. The sulfuric acid's actually full. Shouldn't be a problem. Let me just grab another bucket. Indium concentrate we want, and so advanced chemical reactor in there. Fluid export bus there with the concentrates. Yes, please. Glass cable to connect it. Perfect. Then it should be just a case of item conduit there, break the connection, extract always active, insert, let's jump down here, extract always active, and that is our auto crafting setup. So if you were kind of wondering how I've got all of the other setups, that's a quick run through of one of them live on camera. So let me just pop that in there, go over here, let's request some indium. Let's request 100, why not? Got plenty of the actual fluid that will eventually come out of here as well. Will take its time. In fact, let me grab some acceleration cards. Probably only need one, but I'll do. Go. What's happening here then? That was the right thing, right? Ah, I missed that one. It needs at least EV power. Okay. Okay, that throws it off a little bit. Do I want to do that onto that side, or should I just set up a temporary setup? So that's kind of the 400 aluminium. Let's just make a temporarily. Can we make a IV chemical reactor? Tungsten steel, platinum cables. I think we can do this. So, what are we missing? Platinum cables, that's fine. Platinum cables. Got 2 there. Let's go and throw these manually in here. That's those. We needed a tungsten steel rotor. This guy right here. Let's get this on a pattern for the assembler. Yes, please. And finally, tungsten steel ring. Take that. Okay, so it was the rotor one goes into there. The ring should go in this one. Should be able to auto-craft a tungsten steel rotor, right? Rotor. Yes, perfect. So that'll craft that one through. That's fine there. So we needed a motor. That should be easily done. IV chem reactor. What was needed again? So platinum cables, just those. Okay, so we've got everything that we need on autograph. Platinum should be in here. Thank you. Then we're just waiting on the tungsten steel. So tungsten steel rotor. I think that went here. No, that went at the top. Motor. How far are we off on this? Not massively far. Waiting on the steel. This is kind of the only issue with using low power stuff for our auto crafting setup, I guess. The time it takes is a little bit longer than it needs to be, I guess you could probably say. The blast furnaces are really quick now that they're all basically running on LUV power, I think it classes it, because there's 2 energy input buses. So that's not a problem. It's just the kind of manual stuff which can cause a little bit of issues. Anyway, advanced chemical reactor 4. Sure, we'll take that. And the way I'm going to set this up is I want to break you, put you there, you in there, break this down a second, fluid export into the side, glass cable there, ME up here, it's fine, that's into there, that into there. Let me grab this crate for a second. Very, very temporary setup, so don't worry on this, I'll sort this out off camera. There we go, extract, insert, aluminium. That should now, hey, there we go. So we're producing lead zinc solution, which is centrifuged down. This can be done at HV power if needed, so more than likely we will do it that way as well. Come on. Can't grab it quick enough. Anyway. Wait, why am I doing it that way? Let me go and just chuck it back into the system. There we go. So we're going to get a lot of the lead zinc solution, but that's not going to be a problem. Like temporarily. Sure, let's set up a very temporary setup. Let's get it to go into one of the portable tanks. Why not? Just so it's constantly producing it. But yeah, the lead zinc solution is centrifuged down into lead, silver, and zinc dust. The you might as well get it done. The one thing that does a little bit confuse me with this is there's 2 recipes. They both produce the same resources, but this one uses a lot less power. Like, a lot less power, but it takes longer. And it uses 1 bucket less of the solution for 1 bucket less of the water. A little bit of a... yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's happened there. Anyway, complete the quest here. And that opens up the qubit processing unit. So this guy right here is done with radon, indium gallium phosphide dust, which is just phosphorus dust and gallium dust. Not a problem at all, actually. And so yeah, that one's not a problem there. With radon and a nano CPU wafer, which we've already got on autograph, so no issues there. Radon, we're probably going to have to, well, I say probably, we will be having to get into the micro miners. So if we have a look at the actual quest book, radon, it says here, radon will be needed in large quantities. For now, you'll need to obtain it from tier 2 micro miner missions. So if we have a look at the tier, let's go 2. That should automatically bring it up. uses on the Platinum Tier 2 microminer. So there's two things that you use it for. You either get the stellar creation data for ultra dense hydrogen, which is just solidified hydrogen. Sure, that's not a problem, but that's not what we're after. What we want is this here. So radium salts can be electrolyzed down at EV power. We'll be doing it at IV power for sure. Get rock salt and a bucket of radon. So that's how we'll be getting that. You can get the quantum eyes as well then, if needs be, which are used in a few different things here and there. Second tier 6 circuit, for example. So there's a few different things on that side, but as you've just seen, radon is also used to get a couple of different things here. So reinforce, so yeah, a few different things that it's used for. This will be the first thing that we'll be using it for this qubit CPU. That's used in LUV power storage. Fourth and final tier 4 circuit, which isn't a problem at all. This is just again another step in the chemical reactor on that side, so absolutely no problems on that one. What else is the qubit used in? So tier 4 circuits, third tier 5 circuit we'll be able to get then. And I'm guessing CS6, yeah. So moving through kind of that kind of range itself. So good step on the way. Indium dust. It's used, as I say, in those. The main one that we'll be getting it for is this one to start off with. So I think off camera I might do a little bit of work with the micro miners because I've not used them yet in the series. We have a lot of this dust, or I say dust, a lot of the fluid there, so I think it was centrifuge, wasn't it? So we should be able to literally just go like this, right? Yeah, so that's how I'm gonna temporarily bring it across, because it's not a fully auto-crafted thing anyway, so I've got no issues with that. Probably gonna have to do it probably 21 times to actually get rid of all of the fluid that we've got. So yeah, we'll see on that side. Anyway, that's going to be it for that episode. This room as well, my kind of plan is to constantly keep extending it down, keep throwing these kind of junctions in there whenever we need to put a new barrier in, or a new bar of machinery. Got our blast furnace set up, so yeah, a few different things here and there. Didn't quite get into the automation of the lumium. That in itself is not going to be hard at all. It's essentially just a case of, so lumium, if you have a look, so lumium ingots here. Same for the signalum as well. It's one piece of mana dust for every lumium blend. So the way that I'm going to work it and get the setup made is I will be getting, the recipe will be 1 lumium blend plus 1 mana dust equals 1 lumium ingot. I'll get a couple of filters set up for the banner, put into a fluid extractor, straight into the machine. It's very simple actually after that. So that's that side if you was wondering anyway. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. If you did enjoy, do hit that subscribe button to stay tuned. And yeah, thanks. Bye.